Rahul, you're still on mute.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon, everyone, and a very warm welcome to all of you today to ASMA's Thought Leadership series on the topic of reimagining the education system, shaping digital leaders. Myself, Rahul Jain, Director of ASMA, welcomes you today to this new edition of Thought Leadership series, where we'll focus on some critical and evolving topics and subjects of interest to academia and corporate alike on a month-on-month basis. Today, we have with us Dr. Rajan Saksinaji, a legendary personality and a great academician who will deliver the academic keynote. We take the honor and privilege of welcoming you, sir, today. Thank you so much for joining us, and we are all looking up to listening to your views on the topic. We have with us Mr. Amit Das, a visionary HR and a corporate leader, who will help us understand the importance of having digital leaders in an organization in such uncertain times. We welcome you, Amit Das, sir. We have the privilege of hosting some of the best academic leaders today on the panel. We welcome Dr. Durga Prasad, Dr. Manish Kumar, Dr. Saili Gankar, Dr. Parag Kalkar, and Dr. R.S. Mani, who will be moderating the session. We welcome our partners and sponsors for the event. ASM Group of Institution as the academic partner, FMA Digital as the digital partner, and Digital HR as the community partner. The event is hosted by NextGen Innovate. We are coming up with a lot of exciting initiatives and events under our communities ahead in time. And to enable this, now we have Mr. Nainish Deshpande, who is going to lead our communities and events vertical. Let me invite Nainish to take the proceedings ahead. Over to you, Nainish.
Thank you, Rahul. Thank you. It's my privilege to welcome all the dignitaries here. I would like to tell you something about NextGen Innovate. NextGen Innovate is actually a innovation driven company dedicated to facilitate and bring about innovative solutions to the world's problems. And the mission is to spark the power of innovation in everyone, and even to bring this to the communities on global issues. That's why we have these 4 communities which are working on different perspectives. ASMA, NextGen Innovate works on the conferences, virtual events, and other things. ASMA is a thoughtful leadership platform which is dedicated to academics. And it is India's leading community in academia, which aims to help uncover latest insight, anticipate future trends, provides transformative digital and social media framework for growth, which can adopted across preschools, university, and higher education institutions to keep pace with changing times. ASMA has grown now in its scope and spirit in 7 years. It now empowers academic institutions and universities through events, conferences, research, ASMA portal, ASMA TV, ASMA awards, activation, and many more. Moving ahead, we have another community which is dedicated to HR, and that is known as digital HR. So digital HR mainly is a community platform for HR professionals. It is a leading community of HR professionals aiming digital transformation and innovation in HR practices mainly. And looking after this subject which we are having today, we have tried to bring these communities together and try to harness and understand the requirements in the perspective of HR, that is industry, and in the perspective of academics, which is going to be an outward and inward supply. So they are correlated to each other on this subject. And by this, I would like to tell something about FMA Digital, which is an award-winning digital marketing company which works for premium universities and institutions. So moving towards the subject, we thought let's have a correlation between these two industries, that is academy and the industry output, which is HR. So by this, we are having our 2. I would like to take this privilege to welcome our 2 dignitary keynote speakers. I would like to welcome our academic keynote speaker, Dr. Rajan Saksina, who is a management guru and veteran educationist, former VC of NMIMS, and Amit Das, who is a director of HR and CHRO, Bennett Coleman Company Limited, Types of India Group. And now, to understand this subject through the perspective of academics, I would like to take the privilege to welcome our academic keynote speaker, Dr. Rajan Saksena. Dr. Rajan Saksena is a management guru and veteran educationist, former VC NMIMS, is an institution builder and an author in marketing, corporate strategy, and institution building and leadership. Dr. Saksena began his career at Delhi University and taught at XLRI Jamshedpur, IIM Kolkata, SBJIMR, Mumbai, NMIMS, IIM Indore University, and Calgary and Pace University, New York. He was president of ISTD and held leadership positions in management education and higher education in AMDISA, AIMS, AIMA, and FICCI. He has been an advisor to leading Indian and multinational companies in the areas of branding, marketing strategy, and organization structures and leadership. I would like to request Dr. Rajan Saksena to deliver his speech on the reimagining education ecosystem, shaping digital leaders through the perspective of academics.
Rahul,
over to you, sir.
Sir's presentation also.
You, sir.
Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Rahul. And thank you, Danish, for this introduction of mine. I would like to particularly thank and congratulate Rahul for the new kind of products that he's now bringing into the today. And I'm pretty confident that given the kind of zeal and the enthusiasm that Rahul brings to the table, brings to the fort, the InnoServe and the change that he and along with him many others have been contemplating, we will see that kind of a change happening in the area of higher education. Ladies and gentlemen, higher education is one kind of an area that has been of concern, that has been the most talked about in the recent past, primarily due to the fact that the national education policy that was announced in 2020 and which is now getting implemented is ambitious. It has the potential to transform higher education, or rather reform higher education, create a new education ecosystem, particularly from the regulation point of view, and make the education system far more flexible and agile than what we have been seeing. Our concerns today, when we look at it from the point of view of higher education, it is not just the size. Certainly size is important, but if we were to look at it, size-wise, we are possibly one of the largest in terms of the higher education systems. With 1,100 universities, 40,000 colleges, etc., and with almost about a couple of 100,000 students right there in the education system, particularly from the point of view of what we call it as the undergraduate program, we are today certainly one of the largest education systems. But when we start looking at it from the perspective of, are we preparing the students for the future workplace? Because today, one of the biggest kind of a change that is required in education is in terms of the biggest question that we all have in higher education is, are we preparing the students for the world which is opening up, which is unfolding before us? Today, the students ask us question, what is the value of the degree or the diploma that I'm going to be pursuing? Is it really going to help me live my life? Is it going to really help me, let's say, in starting my own business? Is it going to help me to work in a technology environment? So in the first place is this whole issue of the skill. The first place is that of, are we really preparing the graduates for the world which is unfolding? The second big problem is, which is where the value comes up as a big issue, is that of the quality of education that we are giving. Though we are the largest, we are also not. We are in the bottom 5 or 10 is countries when we start talking about it from the point of view of the quality of education. A majority of the institutions today fall below the threshold level of quality. Forget about in terms of the international quality, but even at the national level quality, I think we are way below as a system than to look at it again from this kind of a perspective. So quality of education is one area that we are today concerned with. All policymakers are today concerned about it from this point of view. How do we improve the quality? Because if we don't improve the quality of education, then not only that we will not be able to really help India, our own people, develop into world-class graduates, but at the same time, we will never be able to attract the foreign students to our country. The national education policy sees India as an education hub, becoming an education hub in another about 20, 25 years time period. The government of India thinks about it from the point of view of India at 2047, that we will be an education hub. But if we are going to be an education hub, are we really, do we really have the quality? Are we really providing that kind of skills that the world is really looking at? And why is this happening? Look at it. There's a disconnect between the institution and the industry world. From the point of view of, let us say, the corporate engagement, I think the corporate engagement is fairly low. And it is necessary to improve this kind of a corporate engagement. Rahul, I want the slides up. The corporate engagement in the training of the workforce, that is important, because that is where the new knowledge is getting generated. That is where the skilling is going to be happening. And that is why today industry is far more willing to come forward to design and deliver the industry-specific courses. Google comes forward, Microsoft is coming forward, let's say some of the IBM is coming forward. We've had Siemens that has come forward. We've had Sir Bosch come forward in terms of training the people in the area of Industry 4.0, of preparing the students for the world which is dominated by AI and the rest that we talk about it, the machine learning and stuff like that. Now, for that, obviously, the big question is, do we really have the faculty ready for this world? We need to be upskilling our faculty. We need to be renewing our faculty, and we need to be upgrading their knowledge. Today, this is one of the biggest missing piece in education system. We are investing much less today in preparing our ed faculty, whether this is at the government level or it is in the private sector. This is an area where there's got to be a bigger investment. The next part that I've had with obviously looking at it from the point of view of how do we make our education system far more transparent. The biggest problem today that we hear from time to time is that the complaint in terms of, for example, from the perspective of the grades or the admission or the fee structures, there's no transparency. So as a result of which, we are today having a non-transparent education. We are having a system which is rigid. This education system is still remaining exclusive. It isn't really inclusive. So the diversity has to improve. We got to make education more and more inclusive. That will bring people from different segments of the society in our education system, for which it is not necessary to look at it only from the point of view of the management education or engineering or those kinds of things, but to look at it also from the perspective of what can we do in the area of vocational skills? What can we do in the area of short-term programs? What can we do in terms of certification programs? Today, good institutions can really create some of those certification programs in which many of the students across the country would be willing to take it, because that will help them in their employment market itself. The next two big pieces are in terms of the entrepreneurial education. How do we create more Rahul Jains? How do we develop more number of entrepreneurs today? And that can happen only when the institution looks at and encourages the students to look at the problems of the community, and for which obviously you've got to be there. You've got to create those kinds of linkages. Research has been another big kind of a missing area. If you look at some of the world's top institutions, research has always been emphasized. Global rankings today, when we talk about it, emphasize on research, and that is why many of our institutions today don't find the place in the top 500. It isn't just merely in terms of the number of papers that you are publishing, but it is the quality of the research and the numbers that we talk about it, but the quality and the impact that the research is having on the community, on the society. Now, today, if we were to start looking at it from all these kinds of perspectives, we realize that we have a long way to go in the next 25 years if India has to emerge as an education hub. Okay, Rahul, next, please. Now, if we look at the change drivers, the next slide, the change drivers.
Rahul, next slide, please.
Yeah. So if we were to look at it from the point of view of the change drivers today in higher education, one is very clearly the demographics. Today, you look at in terms of India is a very young nation. Obviously, if you look at the population size, 1.37 billion or 1.2 billion kind of a population, which will go up to 1.5 billion in another about, let's say, a decade or so, or maybe a little bit more. The question is that this kind of a size of the population puts a question on, are we really doing anything to educate this kind of a population size? Which means that the number of students that have got to be enrolled in education is far more than what we are today enrolling. If we are talking about, let's say, the GER moving up from 26.3 to 50%, there's a whole lot of work that is needed to be done, not just merely in the context of the formal education at the masters and bachelors, etc., but as I said, in this whole area of vocational education, short-term programs, and the skilling part of it. There's a big kind of an opportunity that is there. It's a structure where exactly the population is. It isn't just merely in the urban area. It isn't just merely in the metro area, but today the demand is coming up even in the rural areas. So we need to look at it from that point of view. Technology is a big kind of a change driver. We are all aware about it. The digital technologies are shaping up the kind of education programs delivering. The social media, analytics, and the cloud technology is today another kind of an area that is really changing the technology, which is changing the world for us. Look at the platforms today that have come up, the learning platforms, the Edtech, Coursera, and many such kind of platforms. ASMA, for example, which is again another example of a platform that is now in the process. There are apps. Apps are also changing this whole world. So if I look at it from the point of view of the technology, these four pieces in technology today are changing the entire horizon so far as the higher education is concerned. The geopolitical developments today in our own region, or let us say in Europe itself today has today seen that there is a power centers which are shifting. We are talking about a multi-power center kind of a world itself, not just merely a bipolar world, but a multipolar world itself. And where, let's say, we are talking about the US, India, China, emerging as three very important kind of a power centers. But at the same time, There are other kind of power centers also, whether this is Australia, for example, or they could be Africa itself. You look at it from another one, which is what today creates that kind of an opportunity for let's say, educating some of our best scholars in the world market itself with the kind of scholarship that Quad today offers to Indian students. And last is that this geopolitical development and the public health, particularly the pandemic, today have the potential to disrupt whatever that we have today. We have already seen last 2.5 years how the life got completely disrupted. Go to the next, please. The next slide. So the new and emerging ecosystem in education is about all this. It's about the technology. It's about the Edtech, the world of Edtech. It's a world where the regulations are changing. It's a world where industry is changing. And it's a world where the learner is changing. So look at it from this kind of a perspective that the institution today is in a highly volatile kind of an environment. To think that the same thing is going to be continuing, what was happening in a pre-pandemic period is like denying that something has happened. It's denying the reality. The reality is that we are in a highly volatile system. It isn't just the stock markets that are volatile. It's the entire education ecosystem also, which is today becoming increasingly volatile. It isn't so volatile as the stock market is, but certainly it is also volatile. Now, this is very threatening from the point of view of the educationists, from the point of view of the faculty, from the point of view of the educational institutions, because we have believed and we have lived in a long stretch of equilibrium, a pendulum which rested at one level, and we were all very comfortable. We knew that if we were to do in a particular way, we will succeed. If we were to think in terms of the brand, it will succeed. We will go and advertise heavily. We'll go and use the social media. Fact is, that is not really going to be happening. What are the analytics telling? What is the analytic telling for us? Who is looking at us? Who's really using us? Who are the subscribers to us? Unless and until the institution is able to individualize its offering, its communication, it will never be able to really create that kind of an impact in the environment itself. So let's go to the next, please. So the technologies, next slide, technologies that are shaping the learning horizons, as I said, the very first is obviously the SMAC. The next is obviously the next part, as a consequence of the cloud technology. Look at it. We are talking about an asynchronous technologies. Today, what I'm speaking, Rahul can decide to really post it on not just merely on the ASMA platform, but also on the YouTube and some of those others. Now, people who may not necessarily have registered today, but may want to see what happened in the ASMA conference, that is going to be there, right? Until the time Rahul decides to withdraw that kind of let's say the post or the upload that he has done, the material there. So the cloud technologies today has enabled the learning management systems and also the online courses. One of the biggest reasons why courses like MOOCs are today succeeding, Coursera or Edcast or edX, etc., they are succeeding, is because of this kind of a part of the cloud itself. Today, geography does not matter, time does not matter, and the space does not matter. So I don't have to be in the class at the same time. I can join the class at any time, at the time that I am free, and I can really view what the faculty has really done in the day itself. But then the lecture becomes boring unless and until you create an interaction. So which is where the technology today helps us to create that kind of an interaction, essentially on the basis of the artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence helps us to create that kind of a part. That is in terms of looking at it, again, as I said, who is attending it, what are his needs, what is the kind of a background, and looking at it from the point of view of the learning difficulties that the student may be having. So creating that kind of an environment and then helping us to design some of those kinds of inputs which can really be used by the student, whether they are in Mumbai or they are in Calicut or they are in, let's say, in Hyderabad, or they are somewhere in the north, up there in Punjab or in the northeast, etc. You get that kind of a power to be able to customize and prepare also for the future itself. Zoom that we're using, WebEx, etc. So the integrative technology, which is what we are talking about, the platform, is really changing this entire environment. And the smart technologies today have transformed classroom. The classrooms are far smarter than what they are. So let's go to the next, please, quickly. The next one is obviously talking about it from the perspective of the Edtech. Today, I hear many a time that the Edtech can replace the formal education. I, for one, am not the buyer of this statement. Although I advise some of those Edtech companies today, that the leaders in Edtech industry are the ones that I advise today. But I have always maintained that education is going to be there. Higher education will always be there. University will be there. Institutions will be there. But then universities and institutions cannot afford to ignore the elephant in the room. This elephant is there. If you ignore it at your own cost. And if you were to look at the type of EdTech companies, these are the three different types of EdTech companies that are there, whether this is Unacademy, this is Upgrad, this is, for that matter, let us say the skilled firms that are there. These are the kind of EdTech companies that are there. So let's go to the next, please, quickly. The focus of digital technologies that I've been saying is really three. One is improve the interaction between the faculty and the student. It is to improve the interaction among the students at the peer level, between the faculty and the student. And not only so, it to improve the interaction between the corporate and the students itself, the institution itself. It is to improve the engagement. Student engagement in a formal classroom has been a big question mark. Are they really with you? Are they really listening to the speaker? Are they really, sort of understanding what the speaker is really saying, the faculty is saying? That's a big kind of a question mark. But in this area of technology, you can create a more and more engagement. You can, as I said, individualization is possible. And with that individualization, you can create that kind of an engagement. And analytics helps you to predict what is going to be happening. What kind of a behavior are you going to be seeing of an individual over a period of time? Go to the next. So if we were to look at it, therefore, and this is what I would say, this is the key kind of a part. We need to rethink what is going to be happening. We need to reimagine the education, and we need to re-strategize. So when we say rethink, what is it that we need to rethink? Who is our learner? Who is our student? What are the markets where I am? What is the purpose of education? Let's rethink over it. If the purpose of education placement, look at the kind of advertisements that institutions come up with in terms of highlighting their placement kind of a data, the number of companies that are there, the kind of salaries that the institution is offering, full page ads, hoardings, television ads. So as a result of which, what has happened? It seems to be that education is equal to placement. It's such a wrong assumption that one can really think about it. It is not so. Education has a much larger picture, has a much larger role, that of preparing the student for life. And therefore, the discovery-based learning is today important. Value of the degree is something that I have just mentioned. Therefore, institutions and educators, including the corporate faculty that comes up, need to reimagine what will be this learning model. What kind of a learning model do we really create? It isn't just merely in the context of the online, hybrid, and face-to-face, but it is in the context of what is it, what kind of a learning model? That means, in other words, looking at it from the perspective of how the student is learning, What are the sources from where the student is learning? And then how do I integrate that? So creating a more of an integrative model of learning is something that we need to be thinking about it. Industry and community partnership is another part that we need to be considering, and reimagining what is going to be this kind of a partnership. There are many areas that one I can talk about it, but because of the constraint of time, I won't really spend too much time over here. The other one is, what is the institutional brand value? Why should the student come to NMIMS, for example? Why should the student come to IIM? Why should the student go to IIT? Why should the student go to, let's say, MDI, or why should he go to All India Institute of Medical Sciences, etc., etc.? Today, every institution will have to reimagine the brand value. And this is where I think ASMA can really sit down along with the policymakers there and start building up such a kind of a brand itself. Re-strategize, look at it from the point of view of the transformation strategies, digital transformation, look at it from the point of view of the programs, look at it from the point of view of the student engagement, collaborations with the universities, within India and outside, the brand, all these areas, all of them today require to be re-strategized. Nothing that we have been doing in a pre-pandemic period is going to be working. I don't think many of those things will be changing. And think unless the earlier the institution changes, the better it is. Therefore, and let me go to the next, please. The paradigm shift that is today occurring in higher education is that there's a digital transformation. And these are the reasons that I've been saying, I've been talking about it, that this is what is the big paradigm shift is this. There's a digital transformation, which has changed the entire learning model itself. Flexibility and fluidity, which is what the new education policy is saying. Quick, please. So the institution focus now shift is needed. Can we go to the next, please, quickly? So the technology adoption. Good. So the technology adoption and diffusion. Institutions would have to really start adopting new technologies and diffusing it within their own system, for which faculty and staff reskilling and motivation would become important. No technology can be adopted and diffused in the institution unless and until faculty and staff is committed to it. And for that, not only reskilling is required, motivation is required. Digital enablement of students, faculty, and staff is required. One has to start looking at the processes once again and make them more and more digital enabled kind of processes. One has to start applying the design principles in program design, curriculum restructuring. One has to understand that credentialing will be the key word today. The student would want to earn credits from different sources itself, not just merely from your own institution. The new education policy today provides for that. The academic bank of credit is really that part where the action is. And therefore, why would the student come over to you? Will be if he sees the value in it. And there's another part that is today important, is to really create some of those micro credits, smaller credits, which the student can take. The micro masters are really required, not 1 year programs or 2 year programs, but when it's to start coming down towards a 1 year program in which some part of that is really going to be in the industry and the rest in the classroom and the rest in an online kind of an environment. Collaborate is what I've just mentioned. Strengthen your research and innovation ecosystem. Please do so, those who are from the education sector. Please do that, because if you are not going to be doing it, it's going to hurt India. It's going to hurt our society. And therefore, from that kind of a point of view, as I said, redefine your brand and the market. Okay, let's move towards the next part. We can skip the next slide. We can skip this. Let's move to the new learning model. The new learning model puts the student at the core. Student is right in the center. Everything revolves around it. Everything is revolving around the learner. It is far more inclusive, which is what I've been saying, engagement. collaborative. And therefore, these are the areas that we're talking about. It. Criticality, please look at this kind of a bullet point that I'm talking about, is the inquiry-based learning. It is the inquiry-based learning. It is the discovery-based learning that is important. It isn't rote learning. We are all used to giving the lectures, etc., and expecting the students to take those copious notes and reproducing in the examination. No, that is the wrong model itself. We today need a discovery-based learning models that are there. Experiential learning, where the student is able to experience what he is learning, and therefore the project-based, or let us say internship-based model is really going to be the need of the hour. And the last slide that I would like to present over here is to look at it from the point of view of the entrepreneurial development. As I said right in the beginning, we need many more Rahul Jains. We need many more, let's say, the unicorns in India, because India is the place where such a kind of a development can really take place. Because not just merely size, but also in terms of the diversity and the problems that we have today. So what we need to be looking at it in our education system is in terms of innovation. How are we encouraging innovation? How are we encouraging developing, or rather, how are we developing the creative skills of our students? Is the institution focused on the community or the society? Is it encouraging the students to really develop solutions for the community? Creating those kinds of linkages with the institution, with the community itself becomes important. Technology, well, you need to integrate technology. Multidisciplinary education environment is the way that we have to really create such a kind of an entrepreneur that can really help us to create an entrepreneur. And flexibility in the education system, which can help the student. Let's say if the student is interested in doing something, creating something, and then bringing it over for the purpose and asking the institution to count it as a credit, the institution should be able to do so. Mentoring is another area. Good mentors are required for the purpose of entrepreneurial development. And the last part of it is to look at the entire chain from idea generation to implementation itself. So, ladies and gentlemen, what I have been trying to say in the last 20 minutes or 25 minutes is that it is a time for us to rethink, to reimagine the whole education system that we have, not just merely at a macro level, but even at the micro level. That is the need of the hour. I'm pretty confident that we as educators will live to that kind of a challenge that exists today. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. It was really an insightful session by Dr. Rajan Saksinaji, sir, and it gave us the perspective in terms of the academics, the issues, the scope, the inclusion of the digital area, then how that the focus should be on entrepreneurial development, how the good mentors should be there. Then he has given a very good examples and how how we are volatile on various things. So by this, we have understood the perspective of the academics, which is our output. Moving forward, it is very necessary to understand this subject through the perspective of industry. So for that, I would like to take the opportunity to welcome our industry keynote speaker, Mr. Amit Das, who is a Director HR and CHRO, Bennett Coleman Company Limited, Times of India Group. He's a seasoned HR professional. Amit Das has over 30 years of experience working in senior leadership roles at various professionally managed large MNCs and reputed Indian organizations across diverse business sectors, namely Tata Motors, CESC Limited, ITW Synode, Britannia Industries Limited, Taj Group of Hotels, Vodafone, RPG Group, and Reliance Group. A significant part of Amit's experience has been in organization transformation, growth strategy, and globalization of initiatives. Amit is responsible for overall human capital management of the Times Group business entities, which is one of the most diversified and profitable media conglomerates with power brands across print and publishing, television, internet, radio, and outdoor domains. By this, I request Mr. Amit Das to deliver his industry keynote on our subject. Over to you, sir.
Yeah, hi. Thank you, Manish, for this nice introduction, and good afternoon to all of you. So at the outset, let me thank Mr. Rahul Jain for inviting me as a keynote speaker from the industry for this event of ASMA Thought Leadership 2022. So I'm expected to share my thoughts on an extremely important and relevant topic for today, which is reimagining the educational ecosystem and shaping the digital leaders for tomorrow. So let me start off by saying that education is the passport to the future, and tomorrow belongs to those who prepare for it today. So in my mind, the primary purpose of education must be to build character, to enable learners to be more ethical, rational, compassionate, while at the same time, we need to prepare them for the gainful and meaningful employment that generates a lot of value for the society. So it's increasingly becoming more and more critical that students not only learn, but more importantly, how to learn. So education must move less towards content, in my mind, and more towards learning about how to think critically and solve problems, and how to be more creative and multidisciplinary, and how to innovate, adapt, and absorb the new learnings. So we all know that the students are the output of the academic world, which in turn becomes the input for the industry. And then the industry then undertakes some kind of a business activity for the development and growth of the economy. So the critical stakeholders in this entire chain is the government, the industry, academy. They all need to form a kind of a tripartite synergy to collaborate for a kind of a win-win outcome. So that's the only way it can lead to developing the kind of, the right curriculum with inputs on more on skill building platforms, which will enhance the business acumen among students, which is more transferable on the job. This, in my mind, will help us to build the right futuristic workforce for the industry and also competent talent pool for prosperity of the nation at large. And that's the only way we can meet the strategic objectives of a shared vision for our country. Now, knowledge without application, it doesn't have any value. At the same time, application without knowledge, it becomes a fruitless exercise. Now, we know that today we are living in a Google world. The new age workforce, if you look at, they are looking for more and more flexibility in their choices, in hyper-personalization of their options. So the new age talent, they're extremely excited and at the same time extremely confident of their success in this digitally connected world, which is full of opportunities for them. While we can assume that the students of today will be our future workforce, they are growing up with the Facebooks and they are digital natives, but they need to inculcate that kind of a life and business skills like empathy, agility, collaborativeness, multi-stakeholder management, tolerance towards ambiguity, and develop that growth mindset, critical thinking, at the same time, high degree of resilience to succeed in this kind of a dynamic and increasingly disruptive business world. So dynamic and the fast changing business ecosystem, it's throwing up enormous amount of challenges to the corporate world. So we are also constantly grappling with a kind of, to have that clarity on the right kind of futuristic skills and competence. We have to put our hand on our heart. We are not even clear, because you know the kind of fast changes and the disruptions that's happening in the entire business ecosystem. So the future workforce, they need to be much more creative disruptors in my mind. They have to fully realize the benefits of all the new things for the future, the new products, the new ways of working, the disruptive technologies. So they need to have not only the emotional intelligence to be aware of, but they have to be in control while expressing their own emotions, as well as they have to be cognizant of the emotions of all others around them. So this would foster a deep understanding of the critical elements of this business ecosystem, at the same time drive collaborative success. For example, a growth mindset, it entails intellectual curiosity, constant hunger to learn new things, ability to learn, unlearn, and at the same time relearn. This stimulates experimentation with new ideas, be exceedingly creative, learn from mistakes, actively seek new knowledge with a strong bias for continuous learning. And that would provide a sense of achievement and growth. This would require a flexible and agile human brain to embrace the need to proactively be responsive to constantly change for the better. And this would also require recalibration of our mindset and proactively invest in the skill sets to successfully manage these future demands and challenges in a more and more remote and hybrid workplace. The current education process, it focuses more on knowledge dissemination and less on skill development. We need to create an education system or an ecosystem which helps the students to develop that emotional intelligence beyond cognitive intelligence, their ability to learn, unlearn, relearn, and at the same time develop that intellectual curiosity to assume nothing but question everything. So the curriculum for tomorrow, they should have a balance of cognitive at the same time the emotional learning. It should focus more on building learning habits. This would entail continuous monitoring of the business dynamics to figure out the emerging need to work very closely with the and prepare to work very closely with the industry, at the same time prepare the students with those futuristic skills which are emerging in the industry, which I said before that we are ourselves not very clear and it's extremely dynamic. The various industry bodies, they need to work very closely with the government to include more stakeholders in providing strategic inputs, brainstorm these practical challenges, and find out those implications by adopting a scenario building approach while we chart out the ways to implement the new education policy in the most effective manner. So we have been hearing about this term war for talent for quite some time in the industry now, which is basically means that there's a huge demand and supply gap for industry-ready talent. For a long time, the Indian education ecosystem was being questioned for lack of effectiveness. The business leaders struggle to find job-ready talent, and job seekers grapple to find a job where their skills match the demand. So the future looks promising since the new education policy that we have all seen, it aims to focus on holistic development, okay? And at the same time, the students who are emerging workforce for tomorrow, they need to emphasize their learning on multidisciplinary and holistic educational development. And that would be aided by having a flexible curriculum, creation of the e-course in various regional languages, which again has been suggested in the new education policy, and advocating use of technology, which are all welcome reforms for us. So in today's dynamic business world, the need for behavioral competencies like resilience, agility, innovation, adaptability, this should hopefully be imported to the learning ecosystem of this new education policy. So the education ecosystem must focus on holistic development of students by ensuring access, relevance, equity, quality, at the same time, strong foundational learning. So there's a collaboratively, we are seeing that there's an opportunity of more and more collaboration for industry players in blockchain, AI, predictive analytics, for building more strong data layers and technology solutions, which leads to potential advancement for or opportunities for private sector participation. There is an opportunity for industry participation in research, co-delivering short-term, say, skill building certificates, partnering in creating of online universities, for example. Also, the private sector, it can get more involved as experts in setting up and operationalizing this National Educational Technology Forum, which again has been spoken about in the new education policy. So while industries will have the opportunity to work with the higher education institutes for creating tailored programs more and more that serve their needs, they will also have a role in shaping the larger scale ecosystem to be more aligned to their needs. So today, in a knowledge-driven, networked organization, the digital disruptions, it has transformed the way we do business, where technology has been leveraged more and more as a force multiplier to not only scale up the human intelligence, but also scale up productivity. So we need to invest in building the right futuristic competencies like learning agility, critical thinking, which I spoke about, empathy, cognitive diversity, creativity and innovation, design thinking. And at the same time, we need to push up the digital savviness in the organization so that we can embrace the right technology to not only scale up our cognitive intelligence, but at the same time, to drive productivity and employee experience. So the constant disruption of these new age technologies like AI, machine learning, cognitive computing, robotics, it has transformed the way we work, the way we communicate and interact with each other. So we need to cleverly embrace the right technology to match that unpredictable business ecosystem, which has moved from being not only complicated, it has become more and more complex. So our brain, our human brain, has been conditioned for thousands of years to process past incidents, data, draw insights, and prepare us for the future. But when the future cannot be predicted anymore by law of probability, and the future outcome has endless opportunities, we have no other option but to adopt the right technology to manage that kind of complexity. So people analytics is moving from being an operational tool to a more strategic lever, which can be leveraged to derive that significant ROI through better hiring decisions, increased talent retention, process transformation, improved employee experience, and of course, more productive workforce. So you have to constantly focus on human capital reengineering to re-evaluate the future job roles, which are based on assisted or augmented machine intelligence. Now, let's understand one thing. Technology can either automate our current ways of doing things, or it can transform the way we do things. But incidentally, most of the times what we find is we choose to do the former while we need to do the latter. Our people decisions across employee lifecycle touchpoints, be it attracting the right talent, managing performance, developing and engaging talent, it can be carried out with a high degree of precision and enhanced effectiveness if human intuition is enabled by the right HR analytics. Now, the Indian economy is adopting digital at a breakneck pace. It's causing series of disruptions in all directions. If you look at the internet base today, the user base has grown exponentially to become the world's second largest due to availability of affordable mobile phones, expansion of 4G coverage, moving down to 5G spectrum now, which means that the education ecosystem also needs to demonstrate a massive shift in order to keep pace with that. So this disruptive digital ecosystem will transit many manual tasks to cost-efficient machines and algorithms. This would pose enhanced challenges for people who aren't comfortable or capable of learning new things. For example, the digitalization of our media industry, where I belong to, it has been driven primarily by the demand for instant access to digital content, anytime, anywhere, customized to the need of the readers or the viewers. So newsroom analytics, the live streaming of digital content, social analytics, these are game changers, which is redefining the digital-led innovation roadmap for the media industry. So the millennials or the Gen Zs who are getting into the workplace now, they're highly excited to be part of this digital transformation journey, which provides endless opportunities for them. And the organizations now need to leverage this appetite for embracing new age technology and drive this seamless transition. So what is important is that we must choose the right intuitive technology for high adoption, identify internal evangelists for accelerated buy-in, help employees understand what's in it for them, and customize the training modules, highlight the quick wins, and at the same time reward the desired behavior for adopting the right people technology. Now, we know that the workplace itself has been digital for a long time, where employees across global geographies were connected virtually across offices using technology, especially the IT, ITS kind of organizations. But the current situation post-pandemic has shown up an opportunity for us to build a digital workforce, which is beyond digital workplace. We need to leverage the technology ecosystem and that interconnectedness to drive this distributed and dynamic capability to create the future-ready networked organization. We will see a connected world will change the way we work. As virtual devices enable workplace interactions and communications to happen anywhere at any time, the job roles, careers, they're increasingly becoming more redefined to fit into these boundaryless models. We need to quickly adapt to the technological changes, be it artificial intelligence, robotics, autonomous vehicles, Internet of Things, which is reshaping the entire world of work. So collaboration between human and robots will change the workplace environment of the future. So as big data analytics and AI take over the work that was previously performed by humans, we'll find new job roles will start to emerge. So having said that, it's very important to understand that technology cannot replace the softer aspects of people management in an organization. For example, the talent acquisition or recruitment is all about building personal rapport and relationship with the prospective talent in the market. Performance management is all about having those meaningful conversations between the manager and the team members. So human beings have to constantly provide that empathy, sensitivity, creativity, and innovativeness, compassion, care, while collaborating with the machines. So we have to continue leveraging the right technology to enhance our people management across the employee lifecycle touchpoints. So I mentioned before, in the constant war of talent, the data-driven HR has started leveraging machine learning and natural language processing, for example, in a big way. It demonstrates significant improvement in the quality and speed of talent acquisition through the use of remote video interviewing, also chatbot interviewers for screening. Today's social recruiting, for example, it involves engagement of talent on easily accessible portals on the go through automation and gamification. So these trends, along with the use of predictive analytics and other tools like NLP, machine learning for analyzing contextually relevant information from both structured as well as unstructured data, and online skill testing. All these have laid the foundation for our objective talent screening. Use of this NLP, this kind of techniques and machine learning, it's making these assistants or the recruiters more smarter and more interactive. The organizations are now started using sociometrics, people analytics to predict the culture fit while hiring employees from the market. The other thing what's happening is technology is enabling access and personalization of education across the length and breadth of the country. And that's especially for the marginalized section of the society. It's very important, with inclusive learning solutions driven by mobile data penetration across the country. So this will, in my mind, revolutionize the entire learning ecosystem. Today, the Baijus and the upgrades of the world are redefining the landscape of education today. So these new age AI and machine learning driven edutech platforms, they're igniting the passion to learn and also at the same time building an intense learning appetite among students and professionals. So in an industry, when it comes to talent development, we find that the millennials are more vocal about their expectations and seek continuous learning opportunities to enhance their employability. Hence, the organizations also have to quickly respond to this kind of individualized demands of this new age workforce and approach it through a kind of confluence of education, entertainment, and enlightenment. That hyper-personalization and customized learning curriculum, it can cater to the employee's unique needs, which can be aligned to the individual's career aspiration as well. So this is where we need to embrace the digital platforms and newer technologies to create those flexible career management framework, integrate them with the blended learning experience through meaningful content, which can be delivered in a manner that is entertaining and engaging at the same time contextual. The digital application-based learning solutions supported by interactive technologies such as AI, virtual and augmented reality, bots, and they're significantly transforming the ways employees learn today. So I think it is imperative that we create a personalized experience around learning to make it an enriching and engaging experience by adopting agile and self-directed learning methods and models. Technology will play a key role in this exciting journey by not only making it accessible, but also making it engaging for the users by utilizing their inherent styles and interests. Today, an increasingly global and diverse talent pool, they are shaping creation of new jobs. The workforce will become increasingly multi-generational and diverse, while the workforce will become more flexible and agile at the same time. A connected world will change the way we work as virtual devices enable workplace interactions and communications to happen anywhere at any time. I think this kind of, we have to quickly adapt to this rapid technological change, be it this AI, robotics, whatever we have. And the ecosystem would more and more demand a workforce who can handle uncertainty, adopt or adapt to the frequent changes, engage, and at the same time, automation is the key, is given, and constantly develop their knowledge while on the move. So as I said, the three critical stakeholders, the government, the industry, and academy, they need to form a tripartite synergy to collaborate for a win-win outcome. And this, in my mind, will help build the right futuristic digital workforce for the industry in particular, and a competent talent pool for prosperity of the nation at large. While it will also serve us to meet the overarching objective of a shared vision for our country. So I'd like to conclude by saying that we all know that disruptive innovation can hurt, especially if you are not the one who's disrupting. So as a student, one has to demonstrate high degree of learning agility, be more adaptable, flexible, open-minded, to continuously learn, unlearn, and relearn. I firmly believe that those who can successfully navigate technology and maintain at the same time that human touch while being agile are the ones who will eventually emerge as winners, not just within the organization where you start your career, or not only within your own entrepreneurial venture, but much beyond it as well. Thank you and all the best.
Thank you, Mr. Amit Das. It was really an insightful session, and the brief which you have given in the perspective of industry, which mainly says on the inclusions of government, industry, and academies, that they have to work together, and the inputs and outputs and the collaboratives and derivatives should be worked out accordingly. And by this, I'm moving ahead with our panel discussion, and I would like to welcome all our panelists. Our first esteemed speaker, Dr. C.H.S. Durga Prasad, who is a director of Vijnana Jyoti Institute of Management. Our second eminent speaker, Dr. Manish Kothari, who is a founder and managing director, ISBR Business School, Bangalore. Our third panelist speaker, Dr. Saili Gankar, Vice Chancellor of D.Y. Patil University of Pune. Unfortunately, she had to leave because of the emergencies. Then our fourth panelist speaker, Dr. Parag Karkar, who is a Dean Faculty Management, Dean of Commerce Faculty and Management for Savitribai Phule Pune University, and our esteemed moderator, Professor R.S.S. Mani, who is a Vice President of Institutional Development, ITM Group of Institutions. And by this, I'm requesting Professor Mani sir to take over this panel discussion. Thank you.
Namaskar, everybody. Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you, Manish, for the warm welcome. On behalf of all the colleagues in the panel, we'd like to thank Rahul for creating yet another learning opportunity for each one of us. Very often in such platforms, the greatest pleasure is in meeting fellow colleagues, learning about best practices from each other. And I guess that is the way the world has to cope up post-pandemic if we still keep talking about it. We have with us a fairly distinguished panel. And I'm so delighted this panel represents different parts of India, because I always believed that though we talk about think global, it's very important to act local. And that is where we often talk about the local theory. You may derive the best practices from anywhere, but are we in a position to adapt it to suit our requirements? This is what we also heard from Amit Das in his presentation. Honestly, I was delighted to hear what Amit said somewhere towards the end, that technology might come and go, but it's ultimately the people, it's the professors, it's the teaching learning community that is still going to make a difference to this entire journey of a student's career. I wonder if some of you have heard this, but I love to repeat this whenever I can, that technology might bring in 2G, 3G, 4G, 5G on the anvil. You might have 2G, 3G, 4G, 5G, but I don't think you can ever replace the Guruji. And therefore, I'm delighted to welcome my fellow colleagues, whom I believe are Gurujis of very high standing. Not only have they been great teachers, but they have also created institutions, built careers for students, and helped them launch successfully in the corporate world. All of us have gone through a flux, a transition during the pandemic. The world, which was so physical in nature, became extremely digital. And today we're trying to maintain a balance between physical and digital. And therefore we've started using the word phygital. Such opportunities rarely come in a lifetime. And the pandemic has hit us positively and negatively. The best way to understand it all is to look at experiences of institutions which have not only survived, but given the best to the students during the pandemic. And here are three such organizations which we have here today. So I'm going to go straight into the discussion and request each one of our panelists first to share their perspectives on how they reimagined education within their organization during the pandemic, and what were some of the innovative measures they took to bring about digital learning effectively for the benefit of the most important stakeholder, that is the student. And may I request first Dr. Durga Prasad to please share his perspectives.
Thank you, Professor Mani, the chairman of the panel, the moderator panel, and Mr. Rahul Jain, and Manish and my co-panelists. Good afternoon to one and all. At the outset, let me thank the organizers for giving me the opportunity to share my thoughts and learnings on the theme Reimagining the Education Ecosystem, Shaping the Digital Leaders. Professor Rajan Saksinaji and Amit Das mentioned 2 points: creating employable workforce for future, and engaging and enlightening people, continuous learning and unlearn and flexible. Actually, all these things we followed during the pandemic, also through digital learning activities, through digital mode. So the digital learning or online learning has existed for more than a decade and had been used by various institutions and agencies by using different modes. But it has come into the prominence during the pandemic time. But at VJIM, we started a few self-learning courses in 2018 itself through online mode. During the short break of 3 weeks or 4 weeks, every student is supposed to complete 3 courses through online mode. So quickly we could switch over to the online education. That means the student, the faculty is to interact with the assignments, and the student is supposed to submit the assignments to the faculty. So We also had to scramble to introduce and adopt to digital learning during the pandemic time. In the process, we learned very important lessons in engaging the digital leaders in the virtual world space, with virtual learning space, and creating an active engagement to enhance the learning experience of the student. As a self-learning module, it was only for 3 to 4 weeks. Students also enjoyed the learning, but when it has come a continuous learning and sitting before the computer or a laptop, the students found it difficult how we engaged and how we the enlightened the students. I would like to share some of my thoughts, some of our experiences. Hope others also had the same thing. So the digital or online education is here to stay, but its effectiveness will depend on how well we engage the digital leaders in the virtual learning mode. So we resumed back, and there are two significant opportunities to make digital education more effective. First one is to assess the students' learning or the lack of learning during the online mode. The second is to build on the already ongoing efforts to develop the infrastructure for online learning and continue to develop the capacity of students and teachers to learn and teach in that mode. We had some challenges in the digital teaching. Difficulty in sustaining the interest of students during the online session really is tough for us. Lack of adequate internet bandwidth in semi-urban and rural areas to access online sessions, like everyone. Difficulty in teaching management concept using the case method, role plays, etc. Lack of quality online resources, we had the difficulty. Teachers are not comfortable using virtual platform and methodologies continuously using assessment methods. Management program requires a continuous assessment mode. So we found it difficult. Our teachers, lack of social interactions in the virtual mode makes it difficult for students to learn critical social skills. For a management student, generally we expect, from the management student, we expect them to be social network and developing team building activities. But because of the online activities, so students found it very difficult, and they did not, I can say, maybe 10% of the students learned the social skills. Now, slowly they are building up once they're back in the campus. So, in engaging the digital leaders based on VZEM's experiences, we provided active learning experience, involve students in activities that actively engage them, such as interviewing the people online, collecting the field data, etc. Use the different formats such as embedded video and audio, chat rooms for messaging, and lecture format using the PowerPoint for presentations. Mix more content delivery methods such as video, text, audio, and presentations. Regular feedback to the students about their engagement in the learning process of online classes. Then self-assessment opportunities or responsibility for self-learning to make teaching exciting and compelling. In the mid of the session, self-assessment, small quiz, small activities, small videos and other things, so that the student can also engage themselves and assess their learning abilities. And the faculty constantly upgraded the content to reflect on the current trends, encourage the students to participate in discussion actively. Then we created sound technical support, the computer and internet connectivity, and best hardware and software to run the classes with no disturbance and easy running. And we also helped the faculty to have a good network facility. Then we encourage the faculty to upgrade their skills on online teaching and learning process, online teaching mode, and we encourage them to enroll into various faculty development programs organized by the leading management institutions to make the engagement very effective. So we also created a positive environment since students quickly lose interest in remote learning. Another point also, we had another more point also, when they were at home, it is difficult for them also to concentrate and focus on continuous learning because the socio-economic conditions And just a small thought, it is a time to the institutions who can begin to establish a vision for the effective use of technology to improve numerous facets of the leadership. Digital leadership is not about flashy tools, but a strategic mindset that leverages available resources to improve what we do while anticipating the changes needed to cultivate a school culture focused on engagement and achievement. The institutes now need to shift from mandates and directives to empowerment, support, and embracement as keys to sustainable change. Thank you. These are my initial thoughts on the leadership, shaping the digital leaders. Thank you, sir. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Dr. Durga Prasad. We got a lot of perspectives from you as to what you attempted at VJIM. Let's now perhaps move on to Dr. Parag to look at another university setting, the University of Pune, which is one of the oldest and most respected universities in the country. What were their approaches? How did they try to reimagine education and look at various approaches to shaping digital leaders? Over to you, Dr. Parag.
Thank you, Professor R.S. Mani. At the outset, I would like to thank Mr. Rahul Jain and Ms. Manish Deshpande for this wonderful discussion. And we are happy that today, with all great people, I think this is an advantage of this digital technology where we can really come together and share our thought process.
Yeah.
So we accept as a university, initially, you know that being a traditional university, there are a lot of hiccups as far as the faculty is concerned. They were not mentally ready to accept that they're going on a digital mode. There are two reasons. First reason is, irrespective of anything, with due respect to all teachers on this forum, but whatever they do after closing the door of their classroom, even the head of the department or head of the institution doesn't come to know. So the kind of content which they use inside their classroom is hardly known to the outside world. Second important thing, that when we have gone for using all these technologies, Zoom and WebEx and Google Classroom, teachers were having apprehension. There were reasons for that. Because what happened that at the other end, there was not only a student present, because every student may not have a separate room, closed room at other end. So his whole family was listening or observing the teacher. That has never happened so far. So there was a psychological fear among the teacher also, because their impression may go down if their contents are not updated, if the way of delivery, their language and whatever they do. See, when I am closing the door and inside my classroom, I can have fun, I can chit chat, I can tell story. Here, when you're online, you cannot spend time other than that. So that was a basic hiccup for that. As a university, because we are a state university where we have 7.5 lakh students enrolled, starting from the cities like Pune, Nagar, Nashik to the villages, small villages where the student connectivity is an issue or the bandwidth is an issue, and so many challenges are there. So initially we have requested all faculty members that there should be 70-30 ratio. If you have 4 sessions, you can have only 1 session in a synchronous mode and 3 sessions in an asynchronous mode, where teachers are required to create their content online using various kind of tools. And then 1 session out of 4 sessions can be, because otherwise he may be using his parents' mobile, or he may be using, there may not be multiple devices. There are 2 students in a per home. They may not have multiple devices. So many challenges were there. So combination of synchronous and asynchronous. In addition to that, we have requested all teachers to create small videos, because if you are having 1.5 GB or 2 GB data per day, and then you have 6 hours of classroom or 4 hours of classroom in a daytime, I don't think after 1 or 2 hours, his data will remain alive. His data will get exhausted or student will get exhausted. So what we have created, the teacher has to divide his session where he can create a small videos of concept, definitions, examples, where he can give that video through YouTube channel or share on their WhatsApp group. So student can learn at his own pace anytime, where his device is available, device is fully charged. In certain areas, there is no light for 7 hours. So his device cannot be there on for so many hours. Anywhere, any device and any mode of, and in synchronous mode, I think he can come and then they can have discussion about the doubts clearing of the student. So that was the first strategy which we have done, which asked the teacher to reduce the lecture time from 60 minutes to 50 minutes and 50 minutes to 30 to 35 minutes. Because delivering online session for more than an hour is what very difficult due to many reasons. In addition to that, we have deployed some experts from the film industry. I think some of the speakers have mentioned that concept. Engagement of student was a challenge because student is sitting in sofa, or they may not have a chair. He may be sitting on the bed where television is on, some food is made by his mother, and so many challenging things are there. So engagement of student need to be done properly. Then enrichment of content. The faculty were trained across the institution and across the various disciplines where their content can be enriched using various kind of tool, animation, graphics, and so many things, green screen. And we have created in almost 230 colleges, we have created a small studio with using mobile and stand. People can record their sessions and then that can be delivered using various kind of tools, either Facebook or using YouTube method or any LMS platform also. Then enrichment, after that entertainment. I think you cannot have board lecture because as the pandemic they were having sort of pressure. So there should be some fun, some exercises. So we have requested them, any continuous content should not be more than 15 minutes. In between you can have a poll, in between you can have some exercises, in between you can have some question answer, so that student doesn't sleep at the other end. Because to save that bandwidth, he may off his video. When video is off, I don't know what other end which is happening. So I think that we have done in synchronous combination and asynchronous mode. Then we have started a Degree Plus platform under the university, where smaller courses with the support of all these edutech companies who has come to us because of the scale. See, we have 7.5 lakh students, so they have reduced their price to a smaller amount because of the scale. And that were offered through this platform where a student can learn any value-added courses, because employability is an issue and we can give them additional credit to that. So Degree Plus platform and LMS system was installed in the university where we have supported. So teacher training was the first thing. Teachers engagement was another thing. And then we have tried to create a Google format where they created information from all the teachers for the difficulties they are facing, and using expert rather than creating pressure for the teacher. So in some point of time, we have involved 2 teachers in a classroom. For a senior teacher and junior teacher was simultaneously involved in a classroom, so that they can share the time and they can complement each other. So certain type of things have been done because they should not run away. They should not get back to the negative mode. Basically the girl students also. And in concurrent and continuous evaluation also, we have suggested a lot of free tools were available. So technology support is very, very important, which I feel because the dropout has to be reduced. And now coming out of this pandemic, we feel that this digital technology is definitely going to support us, because we all know that there is a shortage of teachers, and we have gone from annual system to the semester system, and semester system to the choice-based credit system, where we are looking for the concurrent and continuous evaluation. I think we need more use of this digital technology in a teaching learning process, using a lot of technological things where student, what sir was referring to, the personalized way of teaching learning process can happen. Student progression can be monitored on one-to-one basis like that. Cloud intake, now we are, UGC is now referring to the cloud intake for the certain institutions who have A+ grade. So their regular intake and their digital intake and their online intake can be complete intake. So earlier distance education was not considered as a quality education. Online education, now they have UGC has created, it is at par. So I think we all have to take this advantage. So I think hand holding is required. EduTech company cannot run alone because certain things are required offline. Education institute, because of the depth of manpower and the number of students we need to handle to cater to the GER, enhancing of GER, I think we all have to come together and create a combined combination, collaborative technology to see that we reach the maximum number of students. And I think that challenge remains with a state university also, where the number is very large. And because of some reasons, students get dropped out. So we can, with the use of digital technology, we can give access to more students. We can make the education more affordable, and with enhancing the content delivery methodology, I think we'll have enhancement in the quality of our outcome, where we're talking about outcome-based education. So I would like to thank here, and we'll be more happy to answer the question. But I think number-wise, we really need technological support. I think one more thing our university has done is they have formed a Section 8 company in the campus only, who is IT company, because a lot of things gone on digital, including examination. So every time you cannot depend on the external agencies. So we have created a Section 8 company inside the campus, deploying a lot of people from IT. And I think slowly we have, with their support, we are trying to balance between offline and online, like physical mode. So thank you for your opportunity.
Thank you, Dr. Parag. That was really very innovative. As you rightly said, a state university with lakhs and lakhs of students, the challenges are very different. And when listening to you, I was tempted to recall about the digital divide, which we have discussed so much time and again. The fact that India needs a different kind of education system and Bharat needs something else. But it was so nice listening to you and getting the perspective of how University of Pune could blend the two. And I'm sure there'll be more learning lessons for us as we go ahead. But time again to now move back to another case study of a university in Bangalore this time. Dr. Manish Kothari, we'd love to hear your views, please. Request unmute, please.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah, thank you, Professor RSS Mani. You have always been an inspiration, and I think I'm attending this program with you for the second time. And all my co-panelists, namaste from Bengaluru. It's cloudy here, raining, and we see rains here every day. So from the city of Garden, I say a hello to all of you.
Same in Hyderabad also.
Oh, that's
It's
nice.
really sorry to interrupt you.
No worry. Rahul Jain has been an amazing friend, colleague, and in fact, let me tell you,
as well.
the way he's been working on so many aspects. Rahul, thank you for getting us to these platforms. We need to get out of what we are regularly doing and keep discussing the new avenues, new areas, and the whole education system is changing, Rahul. So we need to keep discussing day in, day out, because we are all really moving towards a new India, a renovated India, a better India, a shaped up India. And like our chief guest spoke some time ago, the whole education system is seeing this change. So thank you, Rahul and ASMA and the team. Nainish, thank you for the coordination. So let me take a different perspective to this whole plan, Professor RSS Mani. Like Dr. Parag ji said, and right, Dr. Durga Prasad said, yes, what they did during the type of pandemic to make these changes happen. And yes, almost all the B schools and education institutions across the world got into the same turmoil and did similar things. I would like to tell you where we stand today after this all things happened and how that has impacted the education that we are into. I'm going to very sweetly talk about the 5 pillars, and in each pillar what we are doing now. So that will give an idea of how much of change has happened into the complete education system here and what type of manpower are we working with. Let me start with one of the important pillars known as placements. At present, our placement office has a tool like how I am looking at all of you on the system. On this tool, you have the companies that come in, and by the click of buttons, they register themselves for the placement seasons. At the other end, on the same tool, through another funnel, the students come and upload the types of resumes, not one, varieties of resumes for different types of companies that would like to recruit them. And they decide which company gets what type of resume. Along with that, they also upload their video resumes, wherein if the industry from the other funnel wants to see who this type of category of person is, they do that. And the matchmaking happens through this system, through either WhatsApp or through online, wherein the company sends an email and the institution at the center becomes this connecting point using this tool. Now look at the capability of my placement director at this point of time. Earlier, she is a lady. So earlier she used to travel to all these corporates, take the input, take the JDs through mail, convert that into a proper system, and then send it to students. Students used to come to her, register. Now the whole matchmaking process had so much of back-end works involved. All this has changed. Now, could this have been done without the real manpower knowing about technology? No, technology has already come in. We know that it is there to stay. The ease of the management becomes, I open my dashboard and I see that the whole system that is going on, is it going proper, or is there some corrections required? Everything is on the dashboard and the system is throwing this to you. Now, this is the type of manpower that is required. Do we have such trained manpowers? No. So we have to re-energize them, reinvent this tool. We have to see that how much of training that can be first undone out of them and then redo the new types of training. Now let's look at the admission systems. Yes, pre-pandemic, our team used to travel the length and breadth of the country, and in times Southeast Asian countries, meet the students, talk to them, present the institution and come back. And the present system is your students across the country, across the world applies to you. There's an automatic filter that is set up, and the filter immediately removes or filters those students who do not match your first criteria, and then automatically the ones who come to the second criteria, emails are sent to them through this funnel system itself. You have our panel consists of industry, alumni, present faculty, and the director. All these 4 people earlier had to meet to interview this system, to these students. At present, these people are at their respective places or in the workplace. And when the interview happens, this panel comes from the different places, exactly like how you and I are on this system today. And once they enter their marks, the funnel automatically decides whether he has cleared the selection process or no. And an email from this system goes to the student, wherein he knows whether he's selected or not selected. And by a click of a button, he pays his installments or the first fee and he is approved. Now look at this system. The admission directors of the earlier system didn't know about how to work on such systems. Now, because of the technology that have got deeply into us in this process, the admission director needs to not only know technology, but also need to know how to connect the dots. If he or she knows about it, only then they would be able to see that the next level of staffs are able to understand this work. Shaping digital leader, which is the topic of the day, has to get into shaping these leaders who are going to make our institution run. Let's come to alumni. There was a time we have a database. There was a time, it's just pre-pandemic. I'm not going too far. And these databases were contacted by a few of your students, and you contact them, you email them. Alumni used to come on one platform, then you call them for an alumni meet. They to come to your campus or in any of the centers where you have called them. You meet, you network, and you go back. Now look at the new tool that we are now working on. Our only job is to onboard the alumni on this tool, and that it was also automated. Once the alumni is onboarded, their LinkedIn are already connected. Now this tool opens up job opportunities that is available all across. These students, the present students of the campus, interact with each other, and my alumni director need not get into poking them, talking to them, asking them to do things. We have chapters already created on this tool, and these chapters automatically meet at the places where they are because they know that they are in that chapter, and this allocation of chapter is automatically done based on their present work area. Alumni meet is automatically happening. Alumni have started updating what they are doing. These updates the college also updates what it is doing. End of every month, this collated data automatically becomes as a newsletter and goes to them. So at the back end, there's no one who's doing this. The system is doing it. Your director now needs to facilitate this to make it happen. and maybe add value by presenting more or making the networking more effective. So the manpower is wisely used than what they were doing of all the back-end jobs of connecting these people. Now, post-pandemic, this is the change that has happened. Now, imagine if your alumni head or your alumni directors or the team do not know how to use this tool and the system, the whole system collapses. Now, that's what we are using and that's what is happening. I'll now come to the fourth pillar, which is a very, very important pillar, and that is academics. And our chief guest spoke about how academics is changing, what's happening. Therefore, yesterday we had a faculty from Harvard who wanted to talk to our students. Our students were in the classes, and the whole TV board that's connected in the classrooms had the Harvard faculty talking to all of them. And these students who could ask questions, the faculty could talk to them and visualize and see all the students sitting around. And the whole system was very smooth that happened. And student got to know something from a reputed in university across the globe. Now imagine the faculty who gets into the classroom at that time does not used to know how to use this tool. So a lot of training here is required to see that the systems evolve. Our research scholars have now started working with University of Dubai to have joint publications. And this is happening smoothly and systematically, not only through Zoom, but yes, collaborative working through all the tools available online. Let it be as small as Google Sheets, Google Documents, or as high as working technological tools and mapping the data or working on the data together. So that's the type of manpower that we need. And our guest in the start has told you either train, or reinvent the faculty or replace the faculty, which I would say is the last option, which you should not even look at or think about it. And the last leg of the institution management is administration. There was a time, just pre-pandemic era, everything was manually kept or maybe in the system. But now there are ERPs available. We have an ERP where right from the entry of the student till the exit of the student, everything is mapped. COPO mapping and the COPO calculations, which was so difficult for a faculty merely became back-end operators to make this happen. Make down numbers, calculate things. Now this tool that we have put in a faculty only adds the question of the examinations and links it to the respective POCO. And the end result, whether we have achieved it or we have not achieved it, is today known to us in a pick of a time. Now the faculty may not understand the rubrics behind it, is fine, but there's a tool which is already doing it. And based on the outcome, we immediately work on a plan to see how we overcome the deficiencies, and that is done by bridge courses or whatever. Now, all this is when your faculty knows these tools or techniques. If not, every faculty will have to have a research associate, research assistant, or a technical assistant to keep guiding them doing this. But how long will this continue? So it's time to have all these 5 pillars. We are at this stage today. Have we completely evolved? Yes and no. Yes, because we have already put things in practice. No, because your real old timers of the institution who are the brains are yet to get into the system. So a complete methodology of training has been planned to see that this really becomes 100% success. So yes, RSS Maniji, I think this is what is happening with us. And as you said, shaping digital leaders, we cannot imagine leaders in education without the knowledge of the so-called digital era. Education without this would be difficult and incomplete. And as again our chief guest has said, if you are doing it, you're doing it at your own risk. The whole amount of time that we invest in training is what is going to reproduce results for all of us. So with this, I thanks once again. And yes, I'm open for discussion to take it forward.
Superb. Manish, that was fantastic, particularly how you could use technology as an enabler. All of us know that there is an inherent resistance to accepting technology. Someone had rightly said that everyone loves change, but nobody wants to change. because we feel that there could be impediments, there could be difficulties. And this thought is always there in the mind. You know, I've been teaching for 30 years. What the hell? Why do I need to change at this point in time? But the manner in which you have done it at ISBR is indeed very, very inspirational. And I'm sure we picked up some learning lessons from what you explained. Was the journey that you all went through and are still continuing. If one were to look at what we heard from our three experts from different parts of the country, we were looking at how they could embrace change, how they could bring in digital technology, and most important, I would believe the fundamental stakeholder in making this successful was more the faculty. The student, of course, realized that it was an opportunity to have fun from home. Some students found it difficult because, as you rightly said, they were supervised at home. Very often we spoke about work from home. I thought at some stage it was living at work, because there was no difference between whether you were working or you were at home. Your time was always beyond your control. The only comfort we had or discomfort was you couldn't step out of your building for many a day, many a week, and many a month. But having said that, it's been wonderful as to what we learned from each one of you. And may I request each one of you to just take a minute and very briefly tell us, what was one failure you experienced? Because I always believe that sometimes the best lessons come when we learn from our failures. We always pat on our back when we do something good, great. We enjoy the moment. We share it with great delight. But sometimes something doesn't succeed. I think it's a greater learning lesson for all of us. May I request Parag to begin this time and quickly give us one learning lesson that you acquired during this period about digital learning, digital leadership, etc.
So the very important thing is examination reforms. We have tried our level best to reform the examinations, but I think initially the students were very rigid, and today also they are very rigid because they want only MCQ examination, no other examination. So there were agitations and issues and challenges, including the state government intervention. So initially it was very difficult to convert them to the digital platform. So many things and so many issues and challenges. Students say that 100 things, but actually 99% students join, because we have made on paper pencil examination also, like online, but at institute and college also, where only few students out of this. But when they say that it's more comfortable using that MCQ based examination, convincing the student was very challenging for state universities. Almost it would take 3 to 4 months for us to convince the student. Practically, we have given them 15 minutes more every hour and 2 days gap in between two papers practically at the conducting the examination, I think. And I think our teachers, when it comes back to the offline mode, still I think continuing in a blended mode is really challenging. So we have to see that how they continue with the blended mode also, that they use the YouTube and other channels also for some small part of it, and then classroom mode also. So we are still working on the faculty training program for making them aware of using both ways. And even students also will create some platform for some part we have to keep as an online examination for all time. Only pandemic has given us a challenge to create such kind of various very savvy platform, because the number was very large. 7.5 lakh students, 6 examination, and then we have to keep that window on for 6 hours, because at what time student will join for 1 hour examination, we were not aware. So we have learned a lot of things from that, and I think we could be able to create blended mode of evaluation in future for our Savitribai Phule Pune University.
Great, Dr. Parag. That was a very, very important point you made about examinations, and as they say, defining what the new normal is. Is it physical? Is it only digital? Is it going to be blended? How do we match the good of the physical and the good of the digital? And that's a question all of us are going to seek answers to for some time to come. Manish, would you like to take on and share some insights?
A very interesting one, Paragji. And we had an issue today morning, exactly like what has happened. So we've given the taste of online exam to students, and they've got the taste and feel of it. Now, what has happened is we've announced an examination department has announced one of the exams, and a few students who are going for one semester abroad, they are in their natives, and now they're packing up to go there, and they have to come here for the exams and go back. And very nice that, sir, look at the flight tickets coming from Delhi or Kolkata to Bangalore and going back. For 8 of us who are going to go this one sem abroad, why don't you do an online examinations? Now, the examination system, which consists of all the white-haired people in our institution, they are of a state of thought that no, the student has to come to this college and give examinations. Whereas you look at the modern system, the examination system sometimes have to be evolved to even the students' needs and requirement. And this is a funny situation that came in front of us, the management, and a difficult decision. Any decision taken will surely have repercussions. Like a few who are already in your city would also move on to online examinations, and online examinations are 100% not qualitative. They still have some loose ends. So yes, you are right, Dr. Parag Saab. Examination is critical. Earlier, they're adapting to online was difficult. Now they're moving back to online is the question, and it has become a blended one. So the whole examination reform has to happen, and it is happening. In our case, we had a very, very strong collapse of our ERP. ERPs had just come up, we updated the data, everything was done. And one morning, when 100% of the data is done, 30th or 25th the day, everything of the ERP data was not there, and the ERP was blank. Oh my God. And we had been so quick that we even had stopped maintaining the offline data. And the company, the IT companies who made this have no clue of how it has happened. And here you have your university systems who want data as soon as possible. And we went through some real trauma, and we had to recreate everything that was lost. And then we realized, come what may, we will retain offline for the days to come, and we will go ahead with both. So now our employees numbers are the same, but these people are doing the online work as well as the offline work, and do not understand when a decision really needs to be taken to either give up the offline or, yes, this is a critical phase we are in, Dr. Mani. We are also wondering what is the right time to move on, and online also comes with its own problems, though they get sorted very soon, but the moment one gets sorted, you have suddenly the next one erupting.
Very true.
This is one such one. Of course, there were many other small ones that kept on coming, but I thought, let me share one of it.
Absolutely appreciated. Manish, that was a very good perspective, adding on to what Parag said. Added to the fact that this transition is going to be challenging for all of us, because we're dealing with different generations of teaching faculty.
Exactly.
And that's something we've realized across institutions, across various parts of the country. So let's hear it from Dr. Durga Prasad. So what would you like to share was a pain point?
I agree with both and Manish Kothari. We also experienced the same problem related to the examinations. We have taken the help from one of the agency from Pune, and their system was robust and other thing. Initially, small hiccups, students could not log in and other things. But slowly, students used it to the system and they try to manipulate. And the 2 students sitting in the same room, and we had the proctoring system and all those things. Then, at the point of time, we thought, okay, let us get back to the offline system. Then there was a resistance from the student. Then, but still, we started nothing doing. You have to come to the campus and write the examination. One was the examination. Second issue we faced was the social skills, because 1 year, 1.5 years, they were in online mode. The social skills, and there was small conflict amongst the student groups. We noticed at initial stages. because they do not know each other and some small groups. And we resolved that issue. That was another problem we faced. And a third was adopting to the blended mode. Some parents were reluctant to send the students to the campus from Northeast and other areas because of the pandemic, the second wave or third wave. And we have to convert our entire teaching learning process into a blended mode. So adopting to the blended mode was a real task, a challenge for all the faculty members, because some students want to come to the campus. No, we would like to have a physical class, offline class. Some students said no, online class. So balancing the case discussions and certain assignments, other things was a big challenge. These are the major things. Otherwise, we could manage the things very effectively. I mean, not a much this one.
Well, I realized that there's a common thread about the examination process. We also realized that getting this correct blending is a challenge. How much of physical, how much of digital, what should be the threshold limit? And how can we ensure that these two stakeholders, which are so critical for the institution, the faculty and the students, see eye to eye? Because as Manish explained, and Dr. Parag also suggested, when we use technology as an enabler, the basic systems and processes fall into place. But it is only managing the exceptions that becomes a challenge, because each exception comes with a different set of challenges. And as all of us are worried, one deviation can set a bad precedent. And therefore, we always want to ensure that the decision taken is firm and fair in the process. I want to request this panel to share some insights on yet another topic, which may not be necessarily relevant to your institution, but yet it is something all of us are anxious about. Due to the pandemic, many campuses had to shut down. Many institutions decided to minimize their offerings. They decided to close down certain geographical locations. And at the net result was many students ended up in a situation where they could not get education of their choice at a place proximate enough. I'm sure you've read about these in your own state, in your own locations. Would you like to share with me some insights on what do you think is the way ahead? What do you see happening around so that we can reassure students that what happened was a bad dream and higher education institutions are going to bounce back? Otherwise, you realize if so many campuses so well constructed across the country are lying vacant, and at the other side, we say that there is shortage of seats in the country for higher education, I think it's a terrible paradox that we are facing. So gentlemen, your views, please. Would you like to begin, Manish?
Yeah, Professor RSS Mani, this is what we talk in every forum. I was in the north, somewhere near Jabalpur and Punjab for an Erasmus project last week, and we saw a campus of 150 acres, and they had a mall inside that campus, and the mall was empty with no store open, and we were just looking at it and talking the same thing. And we discussed in length about what you just spoke about it. And a funny situation to be in. At one end, you say that really there are no seats. There are so many seats yet to be filled, and at the other end, campuses are empty. What's going to happen? This also has put us in a dilemma of whether to construct or to wait in a few of our campuses. Should we wait? Should we discuss? So yes, this is truth, but something good happened to us during this time, and I would like to talk about it. We are in the heart of Bangalore in Electronic City. And during exactly this COVID time, what happened was the 11th, and we were only in the higher education space and the research space. The 11th and 12th area, which we call pre-university in Bangalore, students from here, you used to go to a specific zone where we have so many education institutions for doing 11th and 12th, where coaching was high. During the pandemic, we found that students didn't want to, in fact, even go out of house or nearby far off places. And during that time, we had one of the facility which was available to us, and we started 11th and 12th, thinking let us test grounds, and we had real good faculties in that area. In the first year, we could end up getting 200 quality students for this program, and this has become one of our mainstream programs also. Suddenly, this is just the second year. and we could see great results happening. So yes, there have been doors open, and we realize that people have realized being in one place and studying into so many spaces is going to be interesting. To all, I would only like to tell you, you asked us to talk to our people and ensure them what is happening. So to all the audience, let me tell you, the worst is over. Education institutions that were not performing, that didn't have quality faculty or had only infrastructure have all gone. They are no more there. The education institutions that are now there have gone through the tough times and have shown that tough times have only made them stronger. So these institutions are now the fit ones, and they will only work still more to get into the ranking system, to get into the scaling up system, to make research more stronger and make students 360-degree, because they have stood the worst time of their life. So that's what I would like to talk about, and close this statement based on only one thing. Yes, you are right. Education with technology will not stand, but education with faculty who's strong with technology will stand. And that is what is going to happen.
So
yes.
Great, Manish, sharing that. And all of us realize that the tough times are perhaps gone. The setback is over. We are now on the comeback. And every adversity leads to an opportunity. And that is what we perhaps try to encash upon.
Yes.
Dr. Durga Prasad, your comment, please.
So as Manish said, yeah, the quality faculty, as well as, we didn't have a problem because fortunately, pre-COVID, before COVID, we completed all our placement activity, that is March 2020. So all the offers made by the companies were accepted, and all the students joined by the April, and some joined online and offline. And also we noticed that most of the students now, local students, are preferring our institutions. Parents are also preferring. We have a sister concern, the college adjacent to us. They offer an engineering program. They have overwhelming response now. And last 2 years, they increased almost 500 seats. Amazing. And they have very big response from the local and regional places. So yes, infrastructure plays an important role, but at the same time, employing the quality faculty and concentrating more on the high quality of academic activity makes the institution better. And now it is time for all of us to adopt the latest and new technological aspects so that we can engage the students and enlighten the students well. This is my take on this. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Parag, your comment on this, please.
As a panelist have told that there was a shaky situation for 2 years. The supporting system which was there in the campus, like we have institution where they have bigger campuses, the hostels are there, the mess is there, the cafeterias are there, the sports facilities are there. So I think these all were closed for almost 2 years. So a lot of institute who used to generate some of their revenue and the allied things through this kind of thing, I think they had a lot of issues and challenges. But I think it's as rightly said that I have seen the two types of institute. One kind of institute which have seen that the teacher can teach online. If I'm a teacher, I'm teaching to 60 students. So in an online platform, 600 students can also attend. So they reduce their faculty to minimum required numbers. Second type of institute which I've seen that in the this kind of pandemic situation, they have taken very good faculty from all over India. Good faculty who were left the job or they have issues related to job. So they found out very good teaching faculty. And in 6 months period, in the last 6 months, I think they have trained those faculty. So I think the future will be more brighter. What normally happens now, today you can see that there are every student in engineering want to do computer or IT. So you don't get any faculty. There is a dearth of faculty. While on some of the courses, there is a excess of faculty members. So this kind of thing, I think you have to have a flexible mode. But as Manish and Durga Prasad has rightly said that we have learned what is not required. So I think institute has to delay their creation of brick and mortar rather than they can focus on the technology aspect for creating. Because A+ institute, I think the UGC has said they will be allowed to have online mode and digital teaching also. So they have to create an infrastructure and studio also. So every institute should focus on technology investment rather than creating a new building or new hostel. Even in future also, the number of students staying in the hostel may reduce for a short period of time. So I think they have to take a call. But I think taking into consideration that GER has to be enhanced from 27% to 50%. So double of the capacity of the today's capacity, we need to have our education delivery system should be made available, either online, offline, whatever made. So technology is going to play a role. Institutions are bound to be there, but I think there is a certain gap, time delay where you will actually start getting. But today we have seen that the results are 100% because of online. So students are coming to the graduate program and postgraduate program. There is no dearth of students, but the choice definitely of the students is there. They want really quality education. Otherwise, they're not interested in joining an institution who doesn't deliver at all. Thank you very much.
Well noted. Well noted. Well, thank you, gentlemen. That was, yeah, I think we had a wonderful discussion, and I want to thank each one of you for your honest perspectives. Very often what happens is we get to hear the best of things, but sometimes it's important to also learn what went wrong. What were some of the challenges? Because these become learning lessons for us going ahead. As all of you so ably put, we are still going through turbulent times, turbulent both in terms of one, the overall economy, turbulent in terms of even the fact that expectations from education have drastically changed over the last 2 years. And we heard so many stories of it from our panelists. Someone rightly said that in good old days, we used to talk about the VUCA world in the corporate segment. We said the world is volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous. Suddenly it seems to be true even in education, because we're trying to find so many answers all in one go. But I think the challenge is, and that's where I feel, that all of us together should look at finding solutions on an ongoing basis. We cannot sit back and relax. I think those days are gone. We have to be always agile. We have to ensure that you have a vision for the future. It might be a vision for your institution. It could be a vision for higher education. The power of collaboration, which people like ASMA and Rahul and team bring in, learning best practices from each other. In good old days, all of us know that we used to hide our best practices because we were worried somebody else would copy them. But now we believe imitation is perhaps the best way of acknowledging what wonderful things we are doing. And all this we need to remember, we have to focus on the stakeholder mainly, that is the student. And the student should be one who is sound in character, who should learn that compassion is so very important in today's world. All of us have seen that the world pre-pandemic and post-pandemic, there is a huge difference in the emotion. And if we were to wrap up all this, I just realized that if we remember VUCA in a different form, V in VUCA was volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous. Let's give it a positive shade. V in VUCA is, do I have a vision for my organization? Do I know what path I want to tread, taking all my stakeholders together?
Online talk.
You, as in understanding. Can we understand each other? Can we collaborate with each other? Can we support each other instead of being competitive? After all, there is so much to share, so much to learn, so much to contribute to higher education. I already mentioned about the importance of character building, compassion. That's the C for me. And of course, let's not forget, we have to be agile all the time. We don't know what's happening in the world. No one expected the Ukraine crisis, but then the world has battled that also together. And we are reading so many things happening across the world which have an impact on India and all other Asian countries. So let's all pledge together that we will refocus on a vision, understanding each other, develop that sense of character among our students and faculty, the stakeholders, and keep agility. And I'm sure any kind of complex problem that we face will be automatically solved. And as all of us dream, we can keep reimagining education and make the new digital leader that India needs today. And this is going to be a continuous process. And I'm sure with people like the panelists we met today and the keynote speakers, we can make many things happen. It's just as someone rightly said, that we must have the confidence that we can do it. So with that, I'd like to sign off. Hand back to Rahul and Nainish. Thank you, dear colleagues. It was wonderful chatting up with all of you. And I look forward to our continued interaction, because all good things don't come to an end. They only come to a pause, like we are doing at this point in time, so that we can get back to our duties. But I'm sure we will all reconnect back in time to come. Thank you once again. Namaskar.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, all the esteemed panelists, Dr. Manish Kothari, Dr. Parag Karkar, Dr. Durga Prasad, and our moderator, Professor Mani, for giving an insightful journey in this panel discussion on our subject, which focused on the challenges and the things which we have in future in our hand. What are the requirements and how the things are going? Things will happen. Like one of the panelists said that Dr. Parag Karkar, he said that there might not need for the hostels, but this is something, the digital era and the Gen Z is coming up, and they are building up the things ahead for in the future for the academies and for the industries. So I would like to thank all our panelists, all the participants, and everyone. We are coming up with lot of exciting projects, lot of such new subjects ahead. Stay tuned, stay connected through our social media handles, and I request all the participants to fill the feedback form. The link has been given in your chats. And once again, I thank all the panelists and all the participants. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone.